So I want to say two things before I begin talking about the latest episode of Slime. First things first, I want to say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to all of you out there, because at the time of me currently recording this video, it is Christmas Eve, and you guys might see this Christmas Eve night, or, you know, on Christmas Day. Regardless, when you see this video, I just want you to have a very good holiday season, and I love you guys. Now, the second thing I want to say is that I actually recorded last week's episode review for Slime last night, but I have yet to upload it, and you're going to be seeing that, you know, review a part of this video. So if you're wondering why my appearance looks a little bit different, like for instance my clothing, to just the way the camera angle is or whatever, it's because I'm just basically putting two reviews into one solid video, because I'm mainly doing a catch-up week since I was busy all last week. I'm finally catching up on everything that I have missed. Now that that's clarified, you know you guys are going to be able to meet past Chibi. I want to dive headfirst into Gabiru. Gabiru is very incompetent. Like, he has some things that make him seem not as bad, but he is someone that is definitely not fit to lead, to be a chieftain, and I want to explain a lot of reasons why. Number one, even though it's obvious that he knows some tactics, what he said to his father, that they were in the caves and the labyrinths and all that, using the natural built-in labyrinths of, you know, what they live in to their advantage, he knows it's smart. But he's like, at the same time, we're not using what the Lizardmen are capable of to the best as we can. For instance, fighting in the swamplands where they can freely roam around and run fast, while the orcs are obviously very slow and bulky and can't really move fast whatsoever. And so he's like, Father, why are you doing this when you can just bring our forces out there to utilize what we're really good at, like our special trait with our species, to be able to bring them down very quickly and not for allowing us to slowly be whittled down and lose forces. That's basically what he was trying to say. And even though I'm not defending the man, it sounds like I'm defending him, it is a good tactic, and it makes sense on paper. If you look what he said, comparing to what his father said, obviously his, you know, reasoning does make sense. However, the reason why I say he's not fit to be a chieftain slash leader is because, number one, he's incompetent. Like, he got his ego boosted way too much. His henchmen made him feel like he was basically better than his father, and he didn't stop to take a moment to think that his father is a chieftain and has been ruling for a very long time for a reason. You don't get in a position of power like that. It takes a lot of, you know, effort to be there. And the father, obviously, in his own way, is very strong. And his tactics, he obviously knows tactics, how to use the terrain to their advantage. And he also knows when he needs to back down and allow an alliance to help him out. So he understands the gravity of the situation. And also, he knows how dangerous an Orc Lord can be. And this is where Gabiru comes in. How he is someone that was completely unaware of the Orc Lord. And now many are saying, okay, so he didn't know about the Orc Lord. It's really not his fault. Maybe. But even then, though, he should have been at the very least aware that there has to be a reason for over 200,000 orcs to be marching. That does not happen. If he really is as intelligent as he says he is, or he's competent enough to replace his father, then he should have been very aware that the Orc Lord was leading an army that obviously had a very powerful ability, and he didn't put A and B together to figure this out. So that led to his problem towards the end of the episode, where the orcs started to devour their own, and now they're launching towards the Lizardmen. Because it's not just the fact that when they eat, you know, the Lizardmen, they're going to get stronger. They eat their own and they get stronger, and they, you know, get their strength, and they continue to bulk up and get stronger. So every time you take down one of theirs, they're going to get stronger. And see, if they're in the labyrinths, they can slowly whittle them down, drive the corpses to the side, and they're not going to be able to devour them to replenish themselves. So yeah, that was the big point here, is that Gabiru, he did not think about the entire situation. He was just too prideful and was thinking about how the Lizardmen are a great species and they can fight in the swamplands against orcs. He's looking at the orcs as if they're typical orcs. He's looking at them as if they're a species that are obviously usually weaker than the ogres, or the, Lizardmen would be able to take them. That's the way he's looking at it, but he's not looking at it from a perspective of the worst case scenario. And if you are a leader of a situation like a chieftain, then you need to think about the worst case scenario, but like I said, he was not, which led to his downfall at the end. Now, also, another thing too that many need to look at is the fact that you should never allow your ego to get as boosted as it was. He truly thought he was better than his father. He really did. He thought he was a better man than his father in terms of just knowing what to do, and he was basically saying his father got old and not knowing what to do whatsoever, which, that's very stupid. You should listen to your elders. He was someone that's very prideful, someone that has this youth about him, and is not wise in understanding of what has really happened in the world around him. See, his father has been around for a long time. He's a wise king, a chieftain, so he knows how fights are. He knows what to deal with. And if you notice, when they were trying to recruit people to help them out to go fight in the marshlands, they stated that, the only people that really wanted to help them was the young people. People that were young, that were inexperienced, because they really didn't understand the gravity of the situation and what the chieftain was trying to say. So these youngins thinking like they're all powerful, having their ego boosted, is why this is even happening in the first place, why problems are even beginning. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about first. Now anyways, let's talk about the other stuff that's being set up. Let's talk about the Dryad and how the Dryad actually, in some ways, manipulated Rimuru to work with her, and also take down the Orc Lord. The reason how she was able to manipulate him was that she stated she is aware of everything that happens within the Great Forest. Anything. And she was very aware of what happened to the dragons, everything else that's already happened, thus far in the story. She's been very aware. Anything that happens in the territory of the forest, she's aware of. And when she talks about Rimuru, like, this Orc Lord is a servant of, one of the servants of the Demon Lord or whatever, obviously that's going to pique Rimuru's interest. And since she's able to be aware of everything that's going on in the forest, she knows what happened to Shizu. She knows all about that information. She was paying attention to it, and so obviously she was using that against Rimuru, because Rimuru was someone, that would handle anything that has to do with the Demon Lord, because he has a connection with Shizu, and he wants to be able to, avenge her, to be able to carry out her wishes on her final days when she finally died or whatever. He wants to be able to carry on her legacy. So yeah, the Dryad kind of manipulated Rimuru to be able to get him to help in the first place, which speaks a lot about her personality, but also she is not dumb. She's very intelligent, and she knows what to say in a situation. You kind of say she really does make sense to be kind of like an overseer of the entire Great Forest, to be able to get things done to protect the forest from any invaders. Now, anyways, let's also talk about how in this episode, we had one of the Kijin actually go in and try to communicate with the Lizardmen. Now, the Kijin that we saw, he demonstrated his strength that was very scary. Like, the man was able to almost completely lop off the head of a Lizardman like that. It wasn't going to be any issue whatsoever, just because of how quick it was, and the chieftain realized that if he didn't handle the situation like he did, things would have went sour very quickly, and he might not have gotten the help that he wanted in the first place. So it's a good thing that he was a very wise and competent ruler to know when to fight and not to fight, and also to accept help when help enters in through his front door. But yeah, anyways, we also have the stuff with Laplace or whatever. We get to see one of these clown-looking dudes pop up, and they're basically manipulating Gabiru into turning against his father in the first place, which, once again, this goes along with everything that's been built up, that there's obviously a plot here with the Demon Lord trying to turn people against each other. For instance, having Gabiru turn against his father, to what happened to, the Orc Lord and all that. We saw it a couple episodes back when it first happened, when he was given a name, and then we have the stuff going on with, how this, Demon Lord is constantly manipulating Shizu. Obviously, it seems like these Demon Lords are not really good people whatsoever, and they do need to be stopped, and this is kind of like a big plot thread that's been going on now, that's been set up ever since Shizu's death. So with all that out of the way, let's talk about the latest episode of Slime that came out today on Christmas Eve. I am floored by just the amount of quality in this episode. Like, I mean, look, Slime has already been a pretty freaking amazing series already. In terms of the art, animation, voice acting, just everything about this anime has already been amazing. And I've even talked about how the CGI is very impressive. It gives a level of threat to the orcs, and how there's just a massive army that was charging towards the Lizardmen. It's something that, I wish was done for Overlord, that was done, last season or whatever. And so seeing how in this episode, the latest episode that just came out today, and how massive the army was and the display of it, really makes me happy. So let's get into that. I like how grand this battle was. Even though we have, Rimuru's entire army basically coming in, like his forces going in and wiping out these orcs left and right, it just showed the overall scale of the battle. We got to see how powerful each of these individual attacks were, and how strong these forces are underneath Rimuru, and what he could be potentially even capable of himself. And just seeing how all these orcs are just getting wiped out. You see the massive army, the overhead shots, to just how the Lizardmen are surrounded, just all these little things that happen throughout the episode. It makes me really happy with the direction of this anime, and just how Slime is being handled. Because, I mean, there's been a lot of, like, a Sekai series, or just, like, series like this in the fantasy world, that doesn't have the proper, like, I guess, animation art for these type of battle sequences. Getting to see the scale of how massive these armies really are, and just seeing how massive the orc army is, you get a sense of, holy crap, there is over 200,000 orcs that is marching into this land, and it needs to be stopped. Okay, with that all out of the way, though, let's get into the action, or just seeing Rimuru's army, performing what they did. So, we all know that Rimuru is not a weak individual. We know he's incredibly powerful. We have seen slight demonstrations of his strength. Not completely. We haven't seen, like, his maximum upper level strength, like what it possibly is his limit. But we do know that Rimuru is incredibly strong. And we get to see a glimpse into Rimuru's strength through his subordinates in this episode. When you see Ranga go in, or, Gobta's leading the Goblin Riders or whatever, or you see Soe and all of them just going in and just destroying these individual orc armies by themselves, it demonstrates that they have just a portion of Rimuru's power. And if they're this strong, this capable, imagine what Rimuru is capable of himself. That is what really makes this so scary. But this also leads into a little bit more about Rimuru's character, and how, once again, he's not really aware of the world or the environment around him. Because this series is kind of like the opposite of Overlord. As we know from Overlord, Ainz is a character that knows the inside and outs of the game world. Like, he knows about spells, magic, everything, equipment. He is someone that knows all these game mechanics, and that's what really drives him, makes him so unique, especially with how he's able to handle certain situations that pop up throughout his series. But he is really bad at communication. He's really bad with basically trying to figure out what's going on. He's not really good at managing, so to say. He just lucks out at the end of the day, and that's how he manages to get through everything. But overall, he's mainly skilled at learning game mechanics, because he's just fascinated about it. While Rimuru, he's a character that is the exact opposite. He's an individual that doesn't really know much about the game mechanics or just the world mechanics of this, series, and he is someone that just is really good at managing people. He's able to kind of, tell his army, okay, we need to do this, we need to do that, or he is someone that knows how to have people skills. And you can see he's like the exact opposite of Ainz, but it shows once again that he's just incredibly unaware of just the amount of power his army has, but himself, of what he is capable of. Because there was a couple of things that was cut in this episode that, I need to clarify. One of the things is that Rimuru was very scared for his army. Like, honestly, he was worried that the orcs would be too strong and, might overpower his army. That's what Rimuru was worried about. And when he's flying over the battlefield and he's looking down, he sees the destructive capabilities of what Ranga does, or he sees what, Soe and all of them do. He's like, holy crap, he's just in an utter state of shock, because he just didn't expect them to be as powerful as they were, because he really doesn't have a good grasp on how powerful he is either. So, yeah, that type of stuff was cut out from this episode, but you can see from the facial expressions and how, Rimuru reacts to the situation within the episode, you still get the same amount of context, so I don't think it's really that bad overall, than removing the dialogue outside of that from the light novel. But okay. Anyways, let's talk about Gabiru. Gabiru, or however you pronounce his name, let's talk about what he demonstrated in this episode. Now, as I know you've already heard from, my previous episode review, or what was in this video already that I recorded yesterday, is Gabiru was an individual that obviously he's incompetent. He is someone that even though he has a lot of skill, he just is a very youthful man that really isn't aware and doesn't have a lot of wisdom about how the battlefield really works in the grand scheme of things, because how his father knew about Devourer, and, he was able to probably figure out a way to counteract against the orcs and stuff, and even the Orc Lord. And that's what led to Gabiru's downfall, and why he even needed Rimuru's assistance in the first place in this episode. Now, the point here is that this episode goes to show that even though Gabiru is incompetent, he is definitely not fit to be a chieftain at this moment. He still has the qualities to eventually become one, because he did something that was very impressive. He decided to look at the orc chieftain as like, hey, look, or Orc General, my bad. He's like, Orc General, 1v1 me. And, in this case, what he's doing here was biding time. He was basically trying to save his men in any way he possibly could. Because, look, if he was able to take down that Orc General in a 1v1, then it would spare his allies, his Lizardmen underneath him, from getting harmed. So if he could fight him in a 1v1, take him down, that's a big force that's taken out of combat, and then his forces could go in and deal with the orcs as well, once they take down their general. So basically, he was saving his men. He was thinking about his men, and he was taking the burden on his shoulders, which is kind of what a leader should do in the first place. So I have to commend Gabiru where he needs to be commended. He definitely demonstrated a level of skill. At the very least, he took the weight onto his shoulders and realized that he couldn't run away, and he was trying to protect his allies. But also on top of that, he realized when he made a mistake, and he needed to figure out a way to correct it, which when you see Gobta and all them come in, he accepts the alliance. He doesn't act all smart. He's willing to accept help and follow what they're saying. So yeah, Gabiru, even though, like I said, he's incompetent, he definitely showed a level to him that, is not all that bad. He definitely has potential to be someone really good, depending on how his upbringing is, how it goes from this point onward. Now, let's talk about Ranga for a second. Ranga, I knew what to expect, obviously, because I've, read the manga, I read ahead. But Ranga's entire ability, the way it was displayed, looked really impressive. Like the tornado, how it just wiped out the battlefield like a one-shot kill move, just destroyed a big chunk of the battlefield. It's pretty freaking scary, especially when you see like Ben go in as well, and he just starts annihilating portions of the battlefield too with fire. And you're like, oh my god, like this is intense. So yeah, I think this is quite a good way to. I think this is gonna be the final episode actually of Slime for this season. Like, I believe we're going to be going on break. I could be wrong there, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is a great way to kind of end off this year of Slime, because, this is a pretty cool conclusion, building up for the Orc Lord that will be, probably coming into combat in, the next episode, and we'll finally get to see what Rimuru is potentially capable of. Now, that's what I think is pretty much about it. It's a good episode. It demonstrates all the skills of, Rimuru's subordinates, and I think that was a good job because, many have been wondering how strong are they really. But that's about it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like, and if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.